is a small signal hose between your boost actuator and the boost pipe. It's to tell the actuator what to do. So it's a small hose about yay size. We'll go in about probably this length. We're going to go and cut it more or less in the middle, and we're going to interrupt it, and we're going to put that adapter in the hose, and then we're going to take a piece of this polyurethane and push it on there, and it gives us the opportunity to move our boost signal wherever we would like in the car. I want as least as possible wire, so we'll find a nice spot against the fender and we'll wire it there. So what we're essentially going to be doing is more or less that, interrupting your boost signal. We're going to have, let me cut a small piece here just for an example. We're going to have our adapter and our sender. This is a push-in fitting, and it's going to go like that. That's essentially what we're going to be doing. All right, to release the sender, the fitting, you pull back on the collar and release it. So what we do first is we're going to prepare the sender in its little adapter. If you ever need to remove these, you would think that the thread locker is going to stop the thread from moving. It's quite the opposite effect. Prevents corrosion, and I highly recommend doing it. I do it on all the installs that I do. It's a 24mm spanner. Again, you don't want to over tighten it. You've just got to have a nice snug feel. That's good enough. So that's part of our adapter. We'll go now and plug this in. This hose, again, also it just presses in. What we'll do is we'll heat the tube slightly just to make it flexible, and then push it in. Again, it just needs a bit of pressure. You don't want it to pop off under boost. That's good. Plenty strong enough. And please, if you're using hose clamps, just spend the money on decent clamps. These are not your friend. These are cheap and cheerful, but they are really cheap and cheerful. Buy decent hose clamps. Okay, we're going to put the polyurethane hose on. If it doesn't go on just now with this air temperature, it's because it's been pretty cool today. Oh, no, it will. Okay, it's going to go, no problem. This one, make sure it goes all the way to the end. You want a good, good pressure there so it doesn't pop off under boost and give you a boost leak and an incorrect signal to the madman. We're getting to the point of returning the boost signal hose back. Again, be careful the way you orientate your hose clamps. If you are using any hose clamps, be careful the way you orientate them, that you can actually get the screwdriver to where you need it. This you ordinarily wouldn't need to do if it's got the factory hose on it. This one didn't have the factory hose. The hose was a larger diameter, so we had to. And in doing these things, there is lots of opportunity to find problems in your car. Fix them while you've got everything open. A missing hose clamp or a loose bracket or something while everything's open. It's just very easy to do it. Okay, that's good. So now you can see there is the original signal wire for the boost actuator. We've now just interrupted it, and we've added a little pigtail. And taking a look at where to mount the sensor, it has a little bracket that comes with it. I don't want too much slack, but I'm going to use that bolt hole and I'm going to mount it like this. The clamp is made, it's got a little foam section that holds the sender. You roll or fold the clamp around the sender, to give its little shape. Just note it doesn't come with the nut and bolt. You could mount the thing anywhere you like. You can find a spare. I just think this is going to be a handy little spot here. I'm using a spring washer because with the engine vibration, especially in a diesel, you don't want the nut vibrating loose and coming off. Okay, good and solid. I can plug my signal into the sender, and so that's boost done. What we're doing now is we're doing the wiring. So what we do is we put the harness, we just put something protective on it, put it in the vise, and every so often we just tape around all of the strands. So when I'm working with it, moving it in and out of the engine bay, the strands don't get caught on things. It just makes it neater. All of the senders that receive this little plug, which is now all of them, the oil pressure, it's oil pressure, boost pressure, and then the temperature senders, although the temperature senders don't require the red, it comes with the red in it. I've again tape them together, otherwise the wires flop all over, and I want to now get my measurements. So I'm going to run the main harness where I'm going to run it. Then I'm going to start plugging in my wires and run it up to where it'll reach the main harness, and then I'm going to mark on the main harness. Then I'm going to come back and solder those things in their right place into the main harness. So I'm trying to eliminate as many joints as possible and as many crimp joints as possible, and just don't twist stuff together. It's going to get corrosion underneath it. Use a crimp joint, a crimp, and join it properly, or solder and heat shrink. You'll see as I do it now. So I've already prepared all four of the senders, and this one I've already wrapped in corrugated sleeving, split sleeving. So I've now put, this is going to go from the transfer case oil temperature switch. That's the plug that goes in there, and this is going to run up in front of the firewall, up and connect to the wiring loom. So I'm going to crawl under the car now, put this in place, and then get a measurement of how long I need to have it till it touches the main wiring loom for the Madman, and I'll cut accordingly, and then we'll solder it all into the harness, and then we'll go back and do the next one, and then the next one. So this is a lather, rinse and repeat. We're doing the same exercise for all of them. Transfer case temperature sender, and we're going to plug in till we hear the click, more or less. For the moment we're going to be taking it out again afterwards once I've got my measurements, and then we're going to run it along the factory wiring harness and high up. Because of exhaust temperature, we don't want to melt the sender wires and so on, so we've got to be a bit careful about the temperature. So we use the pull through to I didn't put tape on this one, so I hope it makes it through. Yeah. So you can see we're following the factory loom here. It's away from the heat of the exhaust as best as it can be, and it follows the factory wiring harness. Okay, so that's the transmission oil temperature. Next, I think what we'll do is we'll run the oil pressure switch cable, and also run it. Make a note of this one. This is right near to the exhaust here, so I'm gonna put more shielding. I'm actually gonna put more tape underneath here, and I'm gonna put extra heat shield on here, because the exhaust gas is gonna have an effect on it. It's just one of those things. Connect our boost signal plug. See, what I'm trying to do is trying to get all the wires to a point where I'm going to do a connection in the main harness and connect to the right parts. If I can, so I just need to get the length at the moment. I can cut it all out, and then I'll mark the harness, and then I'll take it all out, do one single harness, and then put it all back in again as a soldered harness. So what I'm doing, because I'm going to take everything out and now cut it and solder it into the main wiring loom, I need to know which one is which because they all look the same. So I've just gone and I've left the split sleeving the length that I want it, with the wires left over sticking out. I've still got to cut the boost one just to get the right wire, but there is a bit of wastage on some of these things unless you're going to really stand one by one and feed this, but then the installation just takes too long. So I will boost there. So I'm going to terminate my boost wire inside the wiring loom at that point. So they're all more or less meet at the one point here, and then but I need to be sure that which goes where, so I don't solder the wrong wire together. Coming back from the bottom, that's my transfer case temperature. Here we have the oil pressure that I've marked. This is water temp from the water temp, and then boost pressure. And I'm gonna, when I'm done, I'll cable tie those together so they're nice and neat and out of the way. And the rest of the wires just slack that I'll cut off when I'm doing it. So I have to essentially cut all of unplug all of these now and go and return to the bench. So those are each going to connect to a corresponding wire here. If you're not sure what the wires are, it is on the Madman, the side of the Madman unit, and it is in the manual. Just stick with what Madman does. That if somebody else is working on it, they can stick with the Madman diagram.
Hi, it's Brian from Madman Developments here. Our products are made in South Africa and available to everyone around the world. We have an online shop and warehouse in South Africa selling to the world, and a dedicated shop and warehouse in the USA for the Americas. Go to madmandevelopments.com for all the information you need, including shops and contact details for sales and technical assistance.